Hello, everybody, and welcome to AAC Access All Areas. My name is Ali Batty.
And I'm Ruth Jones. And today's question is, what AAC apps are there out there? And we thought we'd touch on three are kind of the top ones in England that we use and maybe cover a couple of others. So yeah, do you want to, if I hand over to you, Ali, do you want to tell us a little bit about those top three? I feel like you've got a lot of
Yes,
experience, particularly with Grid.
yes. My probably first choice go-to is Grid for iPad. And the reason that that tends to be my go-to is that you get a lot of options with that, so that you've
Yeah.
you've got lots of different vocabulary options. The two that I use the most often are VocoChat and Supercore 50, and we'll probably get into the nuts and bolts of that a bit more. But we would also recommend TD Snap. That is often used as well. And there's two different Proloquo apps,
Yes.
very confusingly. The first original is called Proloquo to go, and then they released Proloquo a few years ago. So Proloquo to go is the original, and I would say you get lots of decisions to make with Proloquo to go, like grid size. Whereas, and the reason that they then brought out Proloquo was parents were feeding back that they were finding that overwhelming and they didn't quite know how to make those decisions. So could they make something that's just like ready to go straight out of the box? And
Mm.
that is Proloquo. How about you,
Yeah,
Ruth?
I think Proloquo to go was my first ever, like that came
Mm,
out as I like kind of
mm,
graduated, and it was on iPhone. And that is something quite good about Prolo, is that you can
mhm.
get it iPhone, like on a phone, on a tablet, and also I think they do a version for an Apple Watch.
Oh,
Quite what that
mm,
looks like, I don't know, but I think it's quite it's grounded in an app, isn't it? Whereas I suppose TD Snap and Grid, they have come from companies who first and foremost started out many moons ago
mm,
with traditional dedicated AAC devices. And so they had the device with the software on, and then I think they've taken the software and turned it into an app for
yes.
iPads, haven't they? Similar to you, I think I mostly use Grid, and partly that is because, yes, the vocabulary option's good, but also I find their customer service is incredible,
Mm,
and their response to questions. They've also got lots of free training sessions, which the others do as well, but was
yes.
part of that package. And also for a lot of local schools in Wiltshire, where I'm based, they all use widget symbols.
Yes.
And I think for the kids, it doesn't matter so much because they're pretty good at working between different symbol sets. But I
Mm,
think as
mm,
like a group of grown-up communication partners, if you're in a school where the social stories, the visual schedules, the lanyards, all of those tools are widget,
mm,
grid, you can use different symbol systems within it, but it also has widget symbols, which I think are
yes.
quite familiar in Wiltshire and Somerset,
Yes.
where I know different localities use different symbol sets, don't they?
I would
So,
say widget is the
um,
most commonly used symbol set across the UK, actually, from what I've gathered.
yeah.
Um, and it is a huge vocabulary, but it's also more UK based culturally. So the symbols that they have chosen suit the UK context a bit better. So if you use a more US based symbol set like PCS, that's picture communication symbols, or symbol sticks is the other one. Um, they tend to have a lot of vocabulary that we don't really use. Like in food, they'll always have applesauce, all one word, and
Yeah.
graham crackers, and is it goldfish crackers or something, and pretzels and things. So there's a lot of change that you need to just, like personalize it to the things that, quavers, what's it,
Yeah.
the equivalents that we would be more familiar with in the UK.
Yeah, which I think is Proloquo to go uses that set of symbols, doesn't it? And then
Mhm,
in
mhm.
widget, you've got the option to use those more Americanized symbols, or we're not within widget, sorry, within grid, but then you can also use different symbol sets. I think for me, that's where grid wins because it can be very personalized at a
Yes.
symbol level before you even get into the
Yes.
vocabulary packages. And I think all of those, the three sort of Prolo and Snapcore and Grid, all offer a very similar setup, don't they? In the sense
Mm.
that they tend to have
Mm.
the core vocabulary, which is kind of all your standard words, the research evidence-based words that are there, and then you get more of your fringe vocabulary. You have some folders where you get whole messages within the folder, and other bits of setup where you can kind of build your sentence one symbol at a time. So I think they are sort of much of a muchness in a lot of respects, aren't they? It's
I
kind of
yes,
down to that
that's what
symbol
I tend to
package.
say when somebody asks me which app should I go for, or if they've bought one of those three already and they're worried, oh, should I have gone for Grid or should I have gone for
Yeah,
Proloquo? I kind of just reassure people if you've chosen one of those ones, you're fine, because they are
yeah,
what we would call a robust vocabulary, and Ruth just touched on that. So a robust vocabulary is an extensive vocabulary. It has a huge variety of words and different word types. So it's got the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, the adverbs, the prepositions, the little function words. And as Ruth said, it has those sort of like high frequency core words that we
mm,
use most of all in our language. So those high frequency words are things like I, you, go, want, get, see, more, in, on. Then the fringe words, as Ruth said, are the more topic-based words. So that might be, things like zebra or helicopter. So those fringe words are generally organised into category pages. So you'd go into vehicles
mm,
and find things like aeroplane, helicopter, ferry, or you'd go into your animals and find elephant, giraffe, zebra. So that, yeah, all of those apps that we're talking about would meet that standard for being a robust vocabulary, and also allowing language growth, as in a child can then start
mm,
building phrases from scratch, and it's a long-term
mm.
project. So this vocabulary is going to see them through, potentially into adulthood.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you're kind of making recommendations to people, what I generally say is any of those are going to be good ones. So there's kind of considerations about what symbols is the child already exposed to, if they're in a school where they're particularly using one lot or the other. Are there other AAC users if they're in a setting? Because then the staff might already know one system well. And so in terms of like then knowing how to edit or whatever, if they're in a school, um, the adults around them in that school will likely be more confident, competent communication partners to begin with if you're introducing a device. Um, and I think there is that kind of piece then about saying, see if any of them offer a free trial, download them, see which one you guys feel like works
Mhm.
best for your family, which one the child is kind of interested in, and considering financially, because some of them are monthly payments, some of them are an annual payment, some of them offer a lifetime payment. So
Yeah.
it's kind of there's a range of different factors, aren't there? And I guess
Yes.
thinking about payment, there are also cheaper and free options available in terms of apps.
Yes, I would say that you get what you pay for with apps, and
Mm,
those big three that we're talking about, so Grid for iPad, TD Snap, or Proloquo/Proloquo to go, they all are about the same per month. So if you pay
yeah.
monthly, they're about £10 per month. If you buy them outright, you can get them for about £200 if you wait for AAC Awareness Month or
Mhm.
Autism Awareness Month. So they always have half price offers. So they would be at around £400 normally, but if you wait for those offers, they come down to £200. And what I did when I was setting up an independent practice is that I started with the monthly subscription, paying £10 a month, and then I waited until the AAC Awareness Month came around, and then I converted and paid £200 up front, so that I wasn't
Yeah.
endless, because I
I,
knew I would be endlessly paying £10 a month, and I kind of did the maths. Not very good at maths, but I could do
yeah.
that maths. So yeah, I would say those really good ones are about the same price, but there are some free ones. So Weave Chat is a free one. Um, Actually, that's the only free one I can think of at the moment. There
Yeah.
are some others. The downside of the free ones is they don't always have quite the same functionality. Weave Chat, I would say, is just a bit clunky, and the symbol set is kind of like its own symbol set. So
Mm,
it it won't match any symbols that a child is exposed to elsewhere. And also it comes down to personal preference, and I am very fussy about the visual appearance of an app. I like the colours to be pretty. I like the sort of scale to be satisfying. I don't like suddenly shifts of scale or the like the thickness of the lines in the drawings and stuff.
yeah.
I know. It's a me problem. Um, but that is worth considering, that families might just want to have a look at the overall look of those apps, and if there's one
Yeah.
that is offensive to them, don't go for that one.
No, no, that's it, isn't it? And I think that's the main the kind of the ultimately there is like a like with anything, there's a first impressions. So when you kind
Mm,
of go on an
mm,
app website or you download it and open it up for the first time, it's ease of use, its functionality, does give you either a good first impression of it or a oh, not
mm,
quite sure how this works. And
yeah.
I'd like to say that actually, like speech therapy assessment is a very complex process, but ultimately it does also boil down to a little
Mm,
bit of that visual appeal because
yes,
if you're putting in a tool, no matter what it is, it's got to be appealing.
yes.
So I think there is,
And that's
and that's the kind of
also
thing where we think,
Sorry, Ruth, I did it again. I interrupted
no,
again. I'm
no,
so
you're
sorry.
fine.
And we've got a slight time lag, so that adds into the interrupting. But that
Yeah,
is another nice thing about Grid for iPad, that you're not having to make that final decision straight away, because you've got the option of, you might have a look at VocoChat and have a look at Supercore, and even try it out for a couple of weeks with your child, and just decide which one seems to suit them. So you're not kind of limited to one
yeah.
layout.
And I think it also there's space to grow with some of them, isn't there? And kind of extend like
Yeah.
within, another feature that probably lends me more towards grid as well is the fact that you can create grids online with their computer software, Grid
Mm.
3, and then you can upload that and families can then download that onto their child's grid. So some schools I work with are doing quite creative things with like student dashboards, and then a student can put their dashboard on their grid and it's kind of there alongside their vocabulary package and their communication passport. I've used that with quite a few AAC users. And if they then get to that stage where they can navigate it, they can drop out of their vocabulary package and into a communication passport, or out of that and into their dashboard to check their schedule for the day, those sorts of things. So I think it's quite a good tool for like very broad access to learning as well if you've got school aged children alongside just the AAC component.
Yeah. So Grid also have quite a strong education offer in addition to
Mm,
the vocabulary packages. So you get things like Classroom Bookshelf, which is a really lovely new feature where you can link to like a YouTube book being read, and then add language around that, around the edge of the screen. So, you might have a reading of the Gruffalo, and then around the edge, you can program cells to say, oh, help, oh no, it's the Gruffalo, or
mm,
his eyes are orange, his teeth are black. And they've got lots of other sort of games and education things, maths and literacy things on there as well.
mm. Yeah, which I think can be quite nice introductions, can't they? There's like that
Mm,
balance as well about do you put the games on or not put the games on,
yeah,
and depending on where your communication learner is at. But yeah, I think it offers like quite a broad package, doesn't it, as an app. And I think, yeah, but I think all of them as well offer very similar editing. You
yes.
can add your own photographs and your own sort of like voice recording bits and pieces, and drop in videos and things to them. Um, and so I think then, what I guess what we're saying isn't it, is to kind of think about those key apps is there really isn't too much in
Mm.
it. So it's maybe just looking at those. extra particular features you've got, or anything that kind of initial appeal to your
Yes, yeah.
child and yourself. Um, and there isn't necessarily a recommendation specifically for one or the other, but I think we both are kind of getting the theme that we both would err towards grid as a
That's
tool.
I mean, I'm fairly transparent and open with people about that when I do training, that I do have a grid bias. Um, but and
Yeah.
I also wanted to say, Ruth, with editing with all of those apps, for parents who might feel a bit intimidated by, oh my goodness, what are they talking about editing? Um, they come complete.
Mm,
So they do come as complete
yeah.
vocabularies. So it is just adding personalizations in. So, for example, you would have a cell or a button on the screen that says my name is, and then you just add in your child's name, or I am however many years old, and you just add the 9 or the whatever to personalize that. So you're not starting from scratch. You've got all the words there, and often some really nice whole phrases as well for quick communication. Um,
Yeah.
and something that I'm always really keen to get across is don't take anything away. So occasionally
No.
I've come across children's vocabulary packages that have been so stripped down. So someone has come and deleted whole pages, or they've just like put 2 buttons on a page. And I really don't, please, 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 please don't do that, because we don't want to restrict your child's access to an extensive vocabulary. They may not need the words for dating now, but they will at
No.
some point, or, around relationships or mental health, but they will at some point. So they'll be there for them when they need
Yeah.
it. Um, and what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else connected with this, but now I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I'll leave it there. It might come back to me as you're talking, Ruth.
Yeah, yeah. I think I totally agree. I think there's sort of that thing, and you've said it, which I really hold on to, is respect the app. And I think that's the
Mm,
thing is when you kind of whichever app you're choosing, a lot of research and a lot of work has gone into the words that are programmed in it. So while you might, in a particular topic folder, if there's foods that your child prefers, you might add that in because it's not on there. Generally, like, stick with the way that things are laid out and stick
mm,
with the way that the vocabulary has been created, and just make those more meaningful changes to particular topic vocabulary to make it relevant and meaningful for your child. Their favorite stories into the story folder, their favorite
mm.
TV programs into that area. Um, and I think, yeah, there's lots of lovely videos out there about how to edit as well. And that's where,
Yes.
it's kind of that balance, isn't it, between like needing the speech therapist side of things, but actually also them feeling comfortable and confident to go it alone with this. And so I think, yeah, I'll try and put the links actually to those top
Mm,
sort of 3 in the show notes so people can see them. The other thing I was just thinking about was actually saying that Autism Acceptance Month is April and
mm,
AAC Awareness Month is October. So if people are
mm,
listening and thinking, when to look out for the deals, April and October are your good months. And the other thing, if you're a speech and language therapist, then maybe other professionals, you can sometimes get a license for your own device as an assessment tool from those different app providers. So it's worth kind of um, reaching out to them. Just to kind of round off our session today, which has been a bit of a whistle stop, but we were kind of like timely manner today, and thinking about not kind of going into too much detail, I suppose, about the different apps, but we have been finishing our little chats with a glimmer of something lovely that's
mm,
happened this week. And my glimmer this week is it's a bit more of a professional reflection one. I've had um both space in supervision, in a group supervision, and also in a one-to-one coaching session. And what I've just been reflecting on, and the space that you're offered, is that balance actually as a speech therapist working with parents and educators when you're putting in AAC is the different roles and responsibilities. And I've kind of had some really, like, I don't know if I'd go as far as an epiphany moment, but that kind of moment where we are all in this together, and
mm,
that shared experience of AAC. And so for me, there's been a real I'm going to kind of go away and create I got excited about creating a new visual as part of my like process of therapy and process of AAC, is actually the different roles and responsibilities that come into this. And so much of our work as speech therapists with AAC is about supporting parents and adults in that child's life to feel confident in their skills with AAC. And so we're working with the child and teaching, but ultimately, particularly when you're first introducing stuff, it's about everybody, isn't it? And upskilling
Yeah.
everyone. So my little glimmer's been that sort of like, oh yeah, I need to remember that and hold on to that and bring it back around. What about yours?
So mine is a child that I've been supporting for some time, and he's a Gestalt language processor. So we're going to cover this in a future episode. But that means
Yeah.
that he picks up on whole phrases that he might have heard other people use, or from his favourite stories, or videos, or song lines. And we have just been gently introducing AAC on an app, and he's really been enjoying exploring it. He had a real period of dysregulation for the whole of last term because he'd had a new tooth and different staff, and a really, really tough time he was having. And then the session that we had, he was noticeably calm and regulated and really exploring the AAC and another app that I've got on there, having that sense of control over what he's doing. And he came out with a new Gestalt that I've never heard before, a spoken Gestalt, and he said, "I feel so much better. I feel
Oh,
so much better." And me and the TA just looked at each other with just like, "Oh, that is magic."
yeah, yeah, isn't it? That is, it is. And it's just those moments, isn't it? Where you're like, oh, you're telling us so much and we see
Mm.
it. But the fact that you've got some, my supervisor, Kate Boot, always talks about language for experience. And that's one of those moments where you've like, that child's got some language for that experience they're having in that moment. That like, oh, it's like scrummy, isn't it? It's like,
Yes,
oh yeah,
yes.
that bit as a speech therapist that we hang on to. Oh, that's such a lovely thing.
Mm.
So lovely. Thanks for sharing that, Ali. Um, so we've done a bit of a whistle stop. I'll put in the show notes the links to those top 3 apps. And it might be, if people come in with a question, we could dive into the different vocabulary packages one
Yes,
week
yes.
around grid. Yeah, because I
Mm.
think like we have like our own preferences and things, don't we, that we've touched on before in other episodes. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today, and we will see you again soon.
Bye bye, everybody.